I've never been a victim of my circumstances. I've always been a champion of my choices. It's a very clear distinction. Let's look at things with more critical approach for the benefit of everybody, not to be right. When I lived in Chile, people were telling me how Chile worked, and they've never been to Chile. And I'm like, you don't know. You've never been there. Or I moved myself to Silicon Valley, and people don't know. People put Silicon Valley in a pedestal, and they don't know. They just have no clue. So let's try to figure out a way so we can all benefit from this wonderful gift that we have, that is life, instead of just being so referred into. I own the truth, and only talking to people that share your same views,
Today on Arrivals, I'm talking with Alicia Castillo Holley, a scientist turned entrepreneur, investor, and world citizen. Over the past 4 decades, she founded companies, invested in more than 90 startups, and challenged the way venture capital works. In this episode, Alicia shares how growing up in Venezuela shaped her fierce independence, why respect for money is her first filter when backing founders, and how she keeps creativity alive in her own life. We also talk about building community, raising kids across countries, and why she believes venture capital needs to be reimagined. It's a conversation about risk, resilience, and choosing success and happiness on your own terms. Alicia, thank you so much for being here, for your time. I really appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I know you've lived in so many countries and worn a lot of hats. You've been a scientist, investor, a founder. If you have to introduce yourself without mentioning your career, how would you describe who you are?
I think I'm a world citizen. That's how I describe myself. I'm a person who has lived in many countries, so I see the world as one. And I think that's the one thing I identify as who I am.
What's something that people are surprised to learn from you?
Well, recently people are very surprised to learn that I'm from Venezuela because it has a lot of bad connotations. You know, I'm 64, so for many years people didn't know. Then people thought I Miss Venezuela. Then people thought the rich people in Miami. Now people think we're all criminals. People are very surprised to know that I'm from Venezuela. I don't look Venezuelan, but I am. I was born and raised there. My parents are not Venezuelan. They were not born there, but they were in love with the country. So that is the one thing that people really, people are shocked to hear. Really? They say, yeah, and I don't kill anybody, but I am from Venezuela.
How do you maintain that connection with Venezuela and your roots till this day?
I don't feel I have roots anywhere because I have a very multicultural background. I think I have wings more than roots. I grew up in a little town, so I do support the senior center there in one church that does a lot of things for the people that are suffering there. So that is my only connection. My parents are not there. My family is not there. Nobody's there anymore that is related to me. The only person that was somehow related to me was the grandmother of my children, and she passed away yesterday. So that's, yeah. But yeah, that's the end of some connection. But we don't have any connection. I haven't been in the country in 25 years.
I want to talk about Wealth in BC, and for those not familiar with the Institute, I'll talk a little bit about what it is and what pushed you to start this company.
Thank you for the question. There are 2 different companies. I run 6 organizations, and they're all related to the basic concept that nobody has to lose for us to win. I created the wealthing model, and I'm writing a book about that. There's been several articles that I've written about that. And the fundamental basis for that is that we cannot change our past, but we can change our future with our present. So that's one of the dimensions. The other dimension is that we need to use creativity, which causes a lot of uncertainty, but the truth in creativity lays inside of us. So we need to really look inside to see how we're going to create something new that never existed. And that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. So that's another edge of the other dimension. But that is grounded on talent and experience. So it's what we know and what we create with what we know. Combine creativity and talent and execution, which is very rigid. Is we know this is going to work, with using our past to leverage the present so we can create a future. At that intersection, we can create a lot of wealth. And we cannot create wealth without sharing it with other people. So when we combine those four areas in that magic quadrant, then we have the opportunity to create wealth. And that's what we do, create wealth. So we have an institute, we have an investment club, we have a VC fund, and we have some advisory services.
I'd love to know how you maintain that creativity in your own life and what pushed you in the first place to be an entrepreneur. How did that happen within yourself with that creativity that you're saying that we need to cultivate within ourselves?
So the entrepreneur in me, so I became an entrepreneur because I'm fiercely independent. And as I mentioned, I grew up in Venezuela, socialist parents, socialist culture, socialist country, in a good social way, care for others, but you don't really need to do anything on your own. And I was fiercely independent. So in order to do that, I wanted to find means to support myself whilst I was being a researcher. I was a professor and academic researcher. So that's how I became an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur because my job as a professor didn't give me enough resources to live the way I wanted with my kids. Even though I grew up in a little town, you don't need a lot of money when you're in a little town, especially in those times. But I thought, I had an 18-year-old car that was breaking apart all the time. I had to fix it all the time, and I was okay. But then I thought, there must be another way. So I started doing things on the side to support myself. And I always had little things. I did cookies and translations to support myself through university. So I always did things like that. But properly, I established a company. It was a landscaping company. It provided a lot of funds for me. I hired my mom. I hired my sister. I hired my students. But I run that over the weekend because during the week I was a full-time professor. So that's how I became an entrepreneur. And how I manage uncertainty is really interesting because when you're a scientist, you have to be skeptical about everything. And that's something a lot of people don't understand. I just had a conversation about that yesterday with VCs. The role of science is to prove that you're wrong, not to prove that you're right. The problem that we have with AI is made to prove that you're right. So the way you prompt it, it would give you feedback to show that you're right. And I'm very concerned that we're going to destroy critical thinking because AI is not meant to tell you, have you thought about this? What about this? So it's creating more separation in humanity than bridges. And creativity is another completely different aspect because when you are creating, you don't know what you're doing. You really don't know. So the way I manage to keep creativity alive is to do two things every single year. I take a course on something that I've never thought I would take. And sometimes it is surfing, sometimes it's Arabic. One time it was improv comedy. So I always take a class or something on something that I never thought I would. It takes me completely out of my comfort zone. And I always visit a place that I've never been to. And I don't structure anything for a week. But then again, that is a very small portion of my life. And the way we manage that at the Wealthing Institute is that should be a very small portion of your life that keeps you alive and active and interested. But you cannot live your life through only that because you need the structure. So that's why you need the two parts. The structure can do that because I have enough funds, because I have a house, because I live in a civil society, I have passport. So I can do that because of that. You have to take care of the structure, but you have to always remember to add that little spice in your life. That's the way I balance that.
What is that spice that you have right now at the moment? Just curious.
We just came back from France. We looked at buying the castle. That was a whole experience. And we didn't want to buy a castle, but we looked at that. I took my kids there to a place where I'd never been to. I've been to France many times, but to a place where I'd never been to. Taking my kids and their kids, taking a look at that. Why are we doing this? What is the sense of legacy? So that's it. And then the other thing that I'm exploring now is creating the Wealthing Legacy with one of our members that wants to create a philanthropic arm that is more structured. But we have no clue how we're going to do that. Absolutely zero clue.
What is the Wealthing Legacy? How does that look like for you in the future?
The only thing that we know at this stage, the only thing that we know is we have a little star up there. We don't even know how we're going to structure that. But there's two things that we know. The goal is to be able to have enough funds to invest in perpetuity as a VC, or not as a VC, but as an investor. Because I think VC is broken, and we can talk about it, but I think VC doesn't work anymore. And I'm a VC. And I'm a limited partner in many VCs. But so we have that goal over there that we want to create something that in perpetuity continues to reinvest. And the other thing that we decided is that it's not going to be attached to any name of any person. So the US has this thing about needing to be recognized all the time. And, we don't want to do that because we're recognized. We want to do that because it's important. And so we decided we're not going to attach any name, any last name, any family name to that. So that is.
You work with entrepreneurs from all over the world, which you see many different markets, many different mindsets. I'm curious on what is it that personally makes you invest the most in an entrepreneur? What are the qualities that you first take into consideration?
Thank you for that question. That's a very interesting question. I'm in Silicon Valley, so a ton of people come here. We see a lot of entrepreneurs. Now that I'm older, the one thing that makes me look deeply into the possibility of investing not only money, but also my time and my connections, my reputation, is respect for money. Very few people respect money. So the money that I have, nobody gave it to me. I work for that. I earn it. There's a lot of people that have worked very, very hard and haven't been able to earn it. But I work very hard for my money, and I don't like when people don't respect my money or the money of the people that invest with me. If an entrepreneur, all they want is money, I'm not a good fit. And we need to work together to create wealth together. So I always look at what is the secondary impact that this has in society. Is it good for the world? So we're not money only, we're money first. But we look at, is this going to create good jobs? And some industries disrupt and destroy other industry. That is okay. We can progress that way. But we need to be kind. We need to be careful about how we do that so we don't destroy the economy as we go along. So we look at respect for money first, then we look at other things.
Okay. What is the main thing within that list of other things that you
So
would
we
look at?
have 5 pillars, and we only look at the first answer was about the person. What is the one characteristic that makes me decide to explore these or to say no? So the red flag, there's no respect for money. I don't need to continue. It's never going to be a good fit. Then we look at the market. Do we know the market? Can we help? We don't invest and pray. We invest and we support the companies. So do we know the market? Do we know the people? Do we know the forces in the market? That's the first thing. Is the market growing? Can we enter? Do we have a niche to enter and to grow? We don't do pre-seed. We do seed and above. So the companies are 3 to 4 years old or more, or 8 years or 10 years. But we look at that whole area about the market. Is the market big? Is the market growing? Do we understand the forces of the market? Then we look at a whole different pillar, which is the operations. Is this doable? Can we do it in an efficient way? What are the forces? What are the barriers to entry? Do we have suppliers? Do we understand the manufacturing or the service production? So that's the whole operation part. Then we look at the team. Is this team capable of doing what they need to do in order to get the market? So is the team connected to the industry? Then we look at the finance. The finance is very easy because it's a combination of market and operations. How much are you going to make? How much does it cost? So the finance is very easy. And then we look at the strategy and who else is investing. So with that, we have 5 pillars and we have 5 levels. So we have a system that is like a traffic light. If it touches one of those points, touches a red, we decline. We do tell the founders why we decline if they ask. So if there's a problem, we say, hey, you need to take care of this. If you address this, you will be more likely to invest. Last year, 100% of the companies we invested were companies we had declined 1 or 2 years before.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, and we keep in touch. Some of the entrepreneurs are just so wonderful. Sometimes it's not a good fit. And sometimes we don't have enough funds. We don't have limited funds. So we need to make a decision. But I wrote a book called Funding Your $1 Million Idea. And part of that is there. So there's a lot of free articles about that.
Yeah. I know you talked also before that founders in the US lack or also wish they had other characteristics that founders in Latin America, for example, or other characteristics that founders have in other parts of the world. What is one example that you think in the US founders need more, or what would you teach them?
I did write an article about comparing entrepreneurs in Hispanic or Spanish-speaking or Hispanic or Latin-speaking countries, Portugal, Spain, Italy, France and Latin America, and Anglo-Saxons, including Germany, Austria, and the US, and Canada and Australia, because I lived in Australia. So there's 4 or 5 very clear distinctions. But the two things that are missing in entrepreneurship in the US, one is the joy. So you always stress. You always stress. You need to deliver. You need to deliver. You need to deliver.
Yes.
And it's never, hey, let's have cool off. Let's have a glass of wine. So there's a lot of burnout because of that. And because you have to deliver and deliver, sometimes you're stretching the truth and sometimes you're just bluntly lying, which is happening a lot with AI, by the way. So there's a lot of people just inflating the numbers and lying. So there's no relief for the entrepreneur. So that's one thing that I wish they could change is cool off, take a time off. If you get a message, you don't have to respond. It's okay. I check my messages 3 times per day, not every day, just cool. So that is one thing that I wish entrepreneurs in the US from anywhere where they come from should do. And the other one is to enjoy life. There's more than your business in life. So I know we want entrepreneurs who are passionate. I'm passionate about my business. I've always been passionate about that. But because I had kids, my kids could care less about my passion about my business. They're like, hey, can you tie my shoes? So I had to sort of, okay, stop this, do that. And I think that enjoying life is the other thing that is missing because, a company is a company, but you as a person are more important than a company, and you're not the company. You are a person. And that part is missing. And then we have other things like it's very transactional here instead of relationship. I have entrepreneurs come to my house and they start crying and they say, I've never been able to cry before. And I don't like crying. I hate it. But, it's like, hey, we're human. So you need to laugh. You need to be able to cry. You just need to be more human. And I think that's something that in not just Latin America, because it also depends where you are in Latin America, lots of cultures, but in social-based cultures like Africa, some places in Africa, some places in Latin America, some peoples in Asia, it's not okay to fail like it is here, but people are kinder to you because they care about you. They don't understand that you want to, take off and build these immense things. They're like, hey, stay with us. But it creates a different tribe.
Yes. You moved to a lot of countries. That has also, of course, helped you with this perspective on how entrepreneurs work in different countries. What has pushed you to move also so many times in your life? What is the main reason you have done that?
So the main reason why I moved was I couldn't find a place to raise my kids. That was the main. So the first time I moved because I lost all my money in Venezuela to a bank crisis. And I said, that's never going to happen to me again. I said, I worked so hard and all my money disappeared. And I had to make a decision whether I left or not. And I had already been accepted to do an MBA in Boston. So I came to the US with 2 kids, 2 suitcases and 2 boxes because I had $600. I either buy a suitcase or I take the dollars. So I took the dollars. And that was the first thing. I want to move. I didn't have to because I left Venezuela in the 90s. I didn't have to move. I wanted to move. And I've always been like that. So I've never been a victim of my circumstances. I've always been a champion of my choices. It's a very clear distinction. But once I moved, I said, I don't want to raise my kids here. And then I moved to Europe. And then I said, I don't want to raise my kids here. And I moved back to the US. And then I went to the library and I printed 140 countries. And I said, where do I want to go? So I went to Chile. And I had a great time in Chile. And then it got to a point where I said, well, now we are growing. We need to go somewhere else. So we left. So I moved a lot because I was looking for a place where my kids could grow with the values that I had. And there's not such a place. That's a utopia. So you keep moving. Okay, I'm going to move here. I'm going to move there. My kids still talk to me, but it was hard for them. We always joke, but my son went to 9 schools. My daughter went to 8. And that's why I realized that building a tribe is so important because, you go to a country, you don't know anybody there. So you start thinking, okay, and sometimes you don't even know the language. And you're like, okay, how do I do this? But that is, I think that is missing in the world. And that is, again, the problem with AI. I'm so certain that my truth is my truth that I don't go and say, hey, wait a second. So, Argentina is much more than gauchos and tango. And Brazil is much more than samba, and Venezuela is more than oil. So we're much more complex. And there's nobody telling us, maybe look at this. You don't have to agree to sit down and try to make things work. Now, you can imagine how it applies to venture capital and entrepreneurs. Sometimes there's a lot of friction. So, yeah, so that's, and business schools don't teach collaboration at all. I mean, we call human resources. That's horrifying. Not
Yeah.
resources, they're
Yeah. Right.
I always think, how do we call that resources? They're not resources. They're people. Resources is a pencil. So I think that is that is a seed I would like to plant on people. It's look at things with more critical approach for the benefit of everybody, not to be right.
Right. Working as a team more with your tribe.
And
like you're saying.
learning.
Yeah.
That's part of uncertainty. So I don't know. Like I've been to Israel, but I've never been to Gaza. But I've been to Israel. And people here talk when I lived in Chile, people were telling me how Chile worked, and they've never been to Chile. And I'm like, you don't know. You've never been there. Or I moved myself to Silicon Valley, and people don't know. People put Silicon Valley in a pedestal, and they don't know. They just have no clue. So yeah, so that thing about, hey, let's try to figure out a way so we can all benefit from this wonderful gift that we have, that is life, instead of just being so referred into, I own the truth, and only talking to people that share your same views.
How are you planting this seed of collaboration? And is that also the part of the legacy that I know we talked about the first time we talked, that you're thinking about the legacy that you also want to live with your business and your tribe and your family as well?
Collaboration is in every single thing that we do. So we never invest alone. We pull all the resources in any way, shape, or form. We have a structure, but people decide if they want to come in or not. We don't have minimum. We don't have a rigid structure in that sense, but we present one deal a month. And if people want to invest, they can tell us, I would like to invest this much or that much. And then we put it all together. And we have one entry in the cap table. But we see a lot of companies that are excellent. We just don't have the capacity to invest in all of them. So we share deals with around 6 EVCs and 9 angel groups. And they're all good because there's some bad ones. So the best ones, or the ones that we think that are more appropriate for venture capital, because you don't need to have venture capital to create a company. You can bootstrap a company. Not all companies need money or need a huge amount of money or risk capital, but we share that with other people, and we don't share it to make money out of it. We share because it's good for the ecosystem. Because if we share it doing SPVs or doing a referral, then we stop doing our work and we become a group that is checking on things, and we just don't have time to do that. It's not a good, efficient time of what we do. That's one part. The other part is we have a tribe within our portfolio. We have companies that are very, very different, and we do something that is called innovation stacking. And so one company might have a camera, one company might have a gene, one company might have a drone, one company might have an anti-collision software. We put them all together and we can tackle a big project. And that's not within their area. But we do, there's a methodology called the 7 thinking hats. So we use that. We use parallel thinking too. And that's where creativity becomes very useful, because you can say, hey, have you thought about this other industry? It's a completely different application, but it's the same technology. And so we're able to really catapult those companies. And it might not work, but we don't need to do a lot of effort for them to check, and a lot of collaboration inter companies as well.
Makes sense. After decades of investing and teaching and building, what would you say is your main philosophy on success?
Well, success and happiness are choices. We choose to be successful, and then we act upon that. And the definition of success is your own business. So for some people, being successful means being able to walk. For some people, being successful means being a billionaire. For some people, being successful means being able to paint or living in a place where you're not going to get shot for something that you've no say. So success is a choice, and you choose to be successful, and then you act upon that. Happiness is the same way. So happiness is inside going out. It's not outside coming in. There's not there. So you choose to do what makes you happy, and then you act upon. And there's 2 types of happiness. There are 2 types of success as well. Is the longevity or legacy success, and there's the immediate success. So you have to sort of balance that and see whatever is good for you on the short term and on the long term.
What are you most excited about right now, Alicia? What is making you most happy at this time in your life, in your career?
Well, personally, I'm very happy about setting up a family office with my kids and my grandkids. We never thought that was possible. It just never crossed our mind. It's one of the things that, I was happy being a professor in Venezuela. And then I said, well, maybe there's something else. And then I lost my money and said, there has to be another way. But I think that's very rewarding for me, very rewarding to see my grandkids who are 8 to 17. Now, they don't think about investments, but they think about the meaning of their life. How can we do something with our life? And they play, and that sort of playfulness is a lot of fun because it's very immediate as well. So that's something that I'm excited about. I'm also excited about disrupting venture capital. Venture capital doesn't work for anybody anymore. So the limited partners never connect with the founders. The GPs are in a very risky industry with very strict boundaries. The VC has to wait 10 years or 13 years. You cannot move LPs. There's no secondaries. You can't invest. If you invest alone, then somebody has to be an anchor. So all the things that made venture capital work 30 years ago are not working today. We need to change that. And I'm excited about finding ways to change that and disrupting that. I'm working on that. We have a model for that. It doesn't work for a lot of people because a lot of people need to know how you're going to get there. And we are saying this is where we need to go. And we might not work this way or that way. When I lived in Chile, I did the first seed capital fund and nobody thought that was possible. When you're an immigrant, failure is not an option. You have to make things work. So you're like, okay, I'm going to have to make it this way or that way. And I was a single mom. So I have to put food on the table and I don't want to do anything illegal. And there's industries where I don't want to be. And so you start thinking, okay, what else can we do? And every obstacle is an opportunity to sort of change a little bit the model. So we realized we needed to change the law. And we didn't know that. And they didn't know that either. It's when we started executing, we said, this doesn't work. So it's the same thing. People have to have the stability to be able to face uncertainty. It's not risk because you can evaluate risk, but uncertainty, you don't know. So people need to be comfortable with uncertainty and say, okay, let's create this model. And that's something that I'm very excited about professionally, is to create a new model for venture capital or however we want to call it.
Thank you so much, Alicia. I want to be respectful of your time. And anything else you want to add? Any advice for women founders that are also starting their business?
Thank you so much for having me. We need more voices. I really appreciate that you haven't asked me the gender question until now, because I'm a person before I'm a woman. And I always tell women, think about a white man, because that the constraints that we have in our mind because we're women are immense. All these things about the imposter syndrome. I don't have imposter syndrome. I have delusional syndrome. And find your tribe, find the people that are going to support you no matter what. And if you feel that something, and this applies for women, for Blacks, for gays, for Hispanics, for people who are not the white people, because the white people are put in a pedestal because of genetics, because it's recessive, so they're less common, so they tend to put us up there. But anything that is not helping you be happy, just ditch it. And don't let the insecurities of other people get into your mind. That is their problem. Some people say, I'm going to go and show them. You don't need to, just forget about them. There's enough people that believe in you, and you need to find your tribe, and you need to help those people as well. So don't waste your time complaining. Don't waste your time thinking about the problem. Just focus on what makes you happy, how you're going to make the life that you want, and just isolate yourself from the negativity, which is, there's so much now. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Alicia. It was great
Thank you
talking
so much.
to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation and find it inspiring. If you did, please share this episode. Don't forget to leave a rating. It really helps more people discover these stories. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.